Hi there, welcome to the second of a series of lessons I've made on trig graphs. Prior knowledge to this one should already be the basic shapes of the sine, cos and tan graphs. You should also hopefully be been introduced to what the A means in front of the graph. So A being the amplitude, the maximum height it goes to. So in this video I'm going to talk about what the B does to it. So first things first is I've chosen to use a cos graph today. So this is a basic cos graph. It's got a secret number 1 in front of the cos, which means it goes from 1 to -1 height-wise. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a number today in front of the x part and let you see what happens to the shape of it. So bear in mind the red one is y equals cos x, that's your original graph. On the same one I've drawn y equals cos 2x this time. So what's happened in the blue one? Can you see that our graph has instantly become compressed? So the red one was as wide as 0 and 360. Here now, your blue one finishes its first kind of shape there. That's where your valley shape, your original valley shape finishes, there at 180 instead. And then we've got another one there. So I've actually, in the space from 0 to 360, I've now drawn 2 cos graphs. So what do you think that 2 means? Let's have a look at another one. So here's y equals cos again in the red, along with the 3 cos graph in green. So using the green one, there's one graph there. There's 2 graphs finishing here. And then there's my third graph finishing there. So I've now got 3 graphs squeezed in between 0 and 360. So I don't have a number in front of the x again, do I, in front of there? But there is a secret number 1. That red one was really just cos 1x, and it had 1 wave. The cos 2x one, I fitted in 2 waves. And on the green one, it was cos 3x, and I've fitted in 3 waves. So this number here, in front of the x, is your number of waves. So here's my pencil again. So this is a bit that would be copied down as your note. So if I've got a graph of equation y equals sine bx or cos bx, it doesn't matter which one I'm using here, b is called the number of complete cycles or waves, different words that teachers will use, between 0 and 360. And then something that's changed on my previous video, the basic sine graph or the basic cos graph started and ended at 360. And we said that its period was 360. Because now if you're putting in 2 graphs, you're halving the overall width of the wave. So your period is halving as well. So on the one I had on the slide before, when I had a cos 2x, that one had a period of half of 360, which was 180. So basically what I'm saying here is if you've got 3 waves, your period is 360 divided by 3. If you've got 10 waves, your period is 360 divided by 10. I hope that makes sense. So we're going to look at some examples now, and we're going to try and write down the equation. And we are going to also maybe put the period in as well. So this is the first one I would ask you to copy down. So first thing to do is decide, is it sine or cos? Now remember, they'll probably tell you in the exam, but I do think we need to be able to distinguish the difference as well. So I always try and get people to decide that. It starts at 0, so it's your sine graph. So it's definitely sine that's going to go in here. What's the highest number it goes to? It goes from 1 to -1. So there's really just a number 1 in front, so I'm not going to write anything. And then we're going to ask ourselves, how many waves are there? So the number of waves, you can trace it with your finger if you want, like this. You can go, right, there's 1 wave, and there's 2 waves. Or you can just see, right, well, there, that first wave finishes at 180. 2 lots of 180 make 360, so it's got 2 waves. So this is a sine 2x graph, and its period is 180 degrees. It starts to repeat at 180 degrees. Second one maybe to copy down. This one here, is it a sine or a cosine? Well, it starts high and it's got that valley shape, so it's definitely a cos. what's the highest number it goes to? It goes from 2 to minus 2. So this would have a 2 in front. And then how many waves have we got? So remember the cost graph starts high and finishes high. So there's one wave here, finishing just after 100. There's 2 waves there, finishing at 200 and something. And there's 3 waves there back to top is 360. So I had 3 waves there. So that was okay. So it's a 3x graph. So the period of that one, where did it start to repeat? It started to repeat here. The numbers aren't clear enough to read off, but we know that the period is 360 divided by 3. So the period of this one would have been 120 degrees. Next graph. Now, one more to copy down as your note, if you're doing that, would be this one here. Now, this one looks really short, and at first glance you'll think, oh, there's only one wave there, but please be careful. This is how they catch everyone out in exams. So let's decide the shape. Is it sine or cosine? It's got that lovely S shape, so it's a sine graph. The highest number it goes to is 3, so we put a 3 in front. And at first glance, oh look, there's one wave, but what? One wave finishing at 90. Now, our basic sine graph should finish at 360. So how many of them would you be able to draw that would keep you going up to 360? You should know that 360 divided by 90 is 4. Meaning we have 4 waves, so it is a 3 sine 4x. And the period is where it would start to repeat, which is clear from the picture. It starts to repeat at 90 degrees. So watch out for that. They don't need to draw all 4 waves. They only need to draw 1. Okay. So one more if you want to copy if we're still doing that is this one here. Hopefully you can spot straight away this is an upside down one. It's got that upside down valley shape, so it's a cos. So it's y equals cos. The highest number it goes to is 2. So it's a 2 cos x, but we already said it was upside down, so I need to squeeze in a wee negative in front of there. So it's y equals negative 2 cos. Now your waves would be 1 to there, 2 to the 360. So negative 2 cos 2x. Okay. So that brings me to the end of the main teaching part of the lesson. I've got several more slides that is up to you if you want to work through them. Pause, maybe try and see if you can get the answer yourself and then write it down. But I'm going to very quickly go through them anyway. One other thing they could ask you to do once you've done your trig graphs is they could ask you to sketch it. This thing here is the important bit, the parameters of the limits you have to draw. So this should be drawn between 0 and 360. So first thing is I decide the shape. It's a sine graph. There's going to be 2 waves. So I'm going to draw 2 sine graphs. 1, 2. Drawing them freehand first of all seems to get that really nice balance between the height and the size of the waves. Then I'm going to put in my axes. Highest number it should go to is 3, because there's a 3 in front and a minus 3. And the number of waves should finish at 360. That's all you need to put on it. If you want, you could put in the 180 there as well. Okay. Had they changed though, let's pretend for a second they change this bit here to 180. Well, then they would only want you to draw this section here up to 180, the bit I'm doing in green. Okay, so just watch out for that if you're asked to sketch them. Well, I've thrown in a little tan graph here just to test what you remember. Now the tan graph has no number in front because tan graph keeps going and going and going. It has no maximum value. But if you remember from a previous video, the tan graph started to repeat. It repeated that shape there at 180. So it should repeat at 180. If you look at this one, it repeats there at 90. And then there's 2 drawn in there by the time you get to 180. So I've compressed it by like a half, so half the distance, so I'm getting in double the amount of graphs. So that would be y equals tan 2x, because it starts to repeat at 90. And I would get 2 of them in before I got to the 180, which I had in the previous original tan graph video. Okay, so this one is a sine. The highest number is 4. So this one is 4 sine. One wave finishes at 180. Two 180s make 360. So that would be 4 sine 2x. And it would have a period of 180 degrees. That's where it would start to repeat. Okay, this is a busy one. It is a cos. It's got that valley shape. So y equals... highest number it goes to is 4. So 4 cos. Let's count the number of waves. Well, there's one wave, there's 2 waves, and there's 3 waves. So it's 4 cos 3x, and the period of this one would be 360 divided by 3 is 120 degrees. Next one, this number isn't the clearest here, that should say 180. It's a cos graph again. The highest number is 3. So it's a 3 cos. It's got one wave finishing at 180, so there would be a second wave. So that's a 3 cos 2x, and the period would be 180 degrees. Okay, this one is a sine graph. Highest number it goes to is 2. Number of waves, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 waves. You could also just look at where it kind of starts to repeat and say, well, that's 90. 4 90s are 360. This one here is an interesting one. It is a cos graph because it starts high. The highest number it goes to is 4, so it's a 4 cos. How many waves have I got between 0 and 360? I've only fitted in half a wave. So technically that one there is 4 cos 1/2 x. Again, you could use 0.5, but there's only half a wave, so you put a half in there. Now, the period of this one's a bit trickier. The period of this one, I've only got half of it up to 360. The other half would take me up to 720. So watch out for those ones. Okay, this one here is a sine graph again. It's got that lovely S shape. Highest number it goes to is 5, so it's 5 sine. At first glance, it looks like there's only one wave, but it finishes at 120. How many 120s go into 360? 3. There would be 3 of those waves. And your period would have been 120. Okay, this one again, we have a sine graph. It's upside down. The highest number it goes to is 3. So it's -3 you put in. And then the number of waves... it looks like just one, but closer inspection says it finishes at 90. How many 90s go into 360? It's 4. So that would be a -3 sine 4x. And its period would be 90 for that one, which we can clearly see from the picture. And my last one has got everything in to catch you out. It's upside down. It's a cos graph. Highest number it goes to is 4. So it's -4 cos graph, so remember I'm negative because it's upside down. Now here is your 360 here. There's roughly your 360. One wave finishes at 720. So I gave you one already where it only had half a wave. This time I've got the full wave, but looking at that number, technically at 360 I've only got half of a wave in. Okay, so remember this number here is how, this bit here is how many waves are there between 0 and 360. Half a wave. So a half in front. So I hope that video's been helpful. Thanks very much.